Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank you all, first of all, for joining the webinar today. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the functionality and services that inspHire can offer in conjunction with our partner, Cloud Geeni. Now, before we begin, I'd like to just start by introducing myself. My name's Daniel Challens, and I'm the Senior Account Manager for inspHire. I've been with inspHire now for over 6 years. And I manage a large array of customers across various different industries. And each one of those different customers has different hosting options and implementations that they deploy. And some of those are going to be hosted options, and some of them are, of course, going to be on-premise. And some of those customers who do have on-premise solutions with inspHire, when it comes to upgrades, obviously, at that point in time, certainly wanting to future-proof themselves, they want to look at what hosting options are available and how it would be possible to deploy inspHire across that hosted network. So in terms of when we look at upgrades for inspHire, certainly there's a lot of benefits that do come from upgrading the main inspHire system. Now, with each version of inspHire that gets released, of course, we make code improvements to make sure the system is faster and more stable than ever before. Each version of inspHire also comes packed with new features as well, which we've placed into the system ourselves, along with new features that customers have also requested. Now, with customers being on the later builds of inspHire as well, that also means we're able to better support them, turn around tickets faster, and deploy any fixes should we need to into the latest builds of inspHire. Now, some of the issues or worries that customers may have when it comes to having an upgrade of inspHire on their system is how can their infrastructure support that upgrade? And that's what we would call a barrier to an upgrade. So some of the concerns that customers may have may be the fact that they are running old on-premise hardware, and they're concerned about the ability of that hardware to be able to support an up-to-date modern inspHire system with all of the peripheral and layered applications such as inspHire Mobile, CRM, web portal, and things of that nature. Some of the other concerns that our customers have as well is some of our customers have full dedicated IT departments, but some of them don't, and they don't really have that experience and that infrastructure to support and move over into a cloud environment. And that's where they oftentimes go to third parties and come to inspHire in the hope that we can work together to deliver that experience for them. Some of the other barriers as well are that, again, they're not even sure of the hosting options which are available or what hosting specifications are needed when it comes to actually hosting an inspHire implementation and deployment on a hosted server. Now, shortly I'm going to be handing over to my partner, Connor, who's going to be going through all of the benefits today in terms of what's available through Cloud Geeni and inspHire working together. But as a general overview, the real key benefits of the partnership that inspHire have formed with Cloud Geeni is between the both of us, of course, inspHire does have a full understanding of the inspHire requirements, both minimum and recommended, not only on a system level, but also on a cloud hosting level as well. We also have a project team that work hand in hand with Cloud Geeni as well, and we have done for some years to make sure that we can deliver exactly what the customers require in a hosted environment, which really ticks all the boxes for customers to ensure that they have a really nice, smooth experience when it comes to using inspHire and the associated layer applications. Of course, working with our project team, we'll have a full scope of requirements based on your specific requirements as well. Each customer that we deal with has a different number of users, a different number of people logging into the system. And of course, that can place different levels of stress on the environment. So when we work with Cloud Geeni, we take that into consideration to get the very best cloud hosting options available to deliver you the best experience. Now, of course, as well with annual costs, normally if you go forward with a third-party provider for hosting solutions, that means that you're dealing with two suppliers. With ourselves, it comes all the way through inspHire, so you have a single point of contact from a single supplier, even though we work very, very closely with Cloud Geeni. Now, from a Cloud Geeni perspective, of course, from their side, they have a direct line of communication with the software engineers. You do, and they have a direct communication line with our engineers as well. They've also got years of experience of inspHire themselves. We have many customers that already use Cloud Geeni. They understand the requirements that inspHire need in order to run successfully, and they're very well versed in that. So a partnership between Cloud Geeni and inspHire is a really fantastic way forward. Now, in addition to that, we've also got some agreed discounted pricing for inspHire customers, which we've worked very, very closely with Cloud Geeni to be able to give customers a nice affordable option and an entry into the cloud hosting environment. Now, with that in mind, what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand over to my partner for today, Connor. So I'm just going to make Connor the presenter here. And Connor, if you would now like to introduce yourself and the services that you can provide for inspHire and Cloud Geeni.
Okay, thanks very much, Daniel. Let me just make sure everyone can see that screen okay. In terms of inspHire and Cloud Geeni, as we touched on there for a point, we've been partners now for a number of years on a number of projects. And a bit about us at a high level as a company. So Cloud Geeni, we are part of the Key Computers group. So Key Computers have been around since 1984. We are a cloud managed service specialist. So we have thousands of end users across the platform. We're a Microsoft cloud solution provider, which means we can provide all of your 365 licensing direct. We're a gold hosting partner, which means we've got the top accreditation when it comes to hosting Microsoft environments within our cloud infrastructure. And we've various other accreditations that we touch on, things like Mimecast, the security tool, where all our engineers are certified specialists for that. And in terms of the data centers that we use at a high level, they're all ISO 27001 data centers, which is in effect as secure as you can go for a data center. And the key points, and I'd imagine that inspHire would say the same, that our engineers really are known for their technical skill. We put our clients first at all times, and we take pride in the environment that we have. It's robust and secure, and we've got a dedicated team for supporting it. A lot of our engineers have been with us we've got 2 that have been with us nearly 20 years. We've got a couple that have been with us over 10. So you have a consistent engineer platform that you would deal with. And again, going back and touching on one of Daniel's points, they have a relationship with the inspHire team, and they know them well. They would be in contact regularly on a daily basis, and they've shared a number of projects over the past number of years. An introduction to me myself. So I've been in the industry for over 10 years and have specialized really in working with sort of law firms, professional services and manufacturing businesses in providing managed cloud solutions for them. So I've a lot of experience, both small firms right up to your large multinationals. We've managed I don't know how many onboards we've done in those 10 years, but it's a significant number. And I have a little slide just to sort of highlight some of the customers and clients that we work with who you may be aware of. Obviously you see inspHire and Carriage. We've been a partner of the Carriage group, who purchased inspHire for probably going back near 5 years now. So for 5 years we've provided their clients with Windows cloud managed environments. So if they have an application and they need somewhere to sit, Carriage group has recommended us as the partner to work with, and that's been brought into inspHire after the acquisition, and we've worked closely with them since that point. Some of the accreditations, I mean, the key accreditations really for anyone looking to deliver cloud services with a Microsoft partner is that Go Cloud platform, which we've had now for 12 months. We've been upgraded in the past sort of couple of years, and our engineers are constantly being upskilled, constantly training and striving to improve those accreditations across the board. And a little introduction really to I suppose the purpose of the webinar really, as I'm sure you are all aware, anyone that's on here today will know that, you know, over the past 5-10 years, traditional industries have really had to change in terms of how they work. There's an increase in competition, and really what we tend to find when we're dealing both with inspHire clients and direct to our own client base, you know, it can be a daunting challenge for a traditional business to make a migration to something like the cloud, to go from a traditional server on site that they can see, a box that they know is there, and moving to facilitate, you know, the changes that are required in the modern working environment. So we understand that very well. We've been on that journey with hundreds of clients and thousands of end users over the past number of years. And really the big, I suppose the big impact of the past 12 months with COVID has been that we have seen a number of those traditional manufacturing companies coming to us who require the necessity to be able to work remotely and be able to facilitate different working patterns, where whether it be through childcare issues with kids at school, having members of staff that traditionally sat in an office needing the ability to work from home but still be able to access all of the applications. That previously would have been something that probably impacted larger firms more, but in the past 12 months, small businesses across the board have had to adjust. And I've sat there around 32% of budgets being spent currently on cloud computing, and that's just going to rise over the next 12 and 24 months. The real impact of it is that need to be both agile and lean and be able to provide a remote working solution, and that's where we really help. And if you look at sort of the benefits of cloud computing at a very high level, I mean, some of the things that are, you know, cutting costs, and that cutting costs can be really around the upfront costs that you spend on hardware, replacing servers, the cost of maintaining and managing them, and also moving forward, the cost of, if you have servers on premise and you're not able to access the site itself, there's security risks and associated costs with maintaining that. So it really increases flexibility to remove that requirement from sitting inside an office or inside a building, putting it into our data centers and our cloud environment and allowing you to access it from anywhere. And a key benefit really is the scale, with no limit on how quick or fast you can grow and stretch. It means that overnight, a number of our clients last year who may have been businesses that worked primarily in the office, never really had the intention of working from home, overnight they needed to maintain operations and scale the business. All they had to do was pick up the phone calls, and everyone was set up within, you know, minutes, and they were working from home as if they were sat in the office. So really does improve flexibility and does have a good cost implication when you factor in what you spend up front. In terms of some of the stats there, 35 to 50% overall are to move their applications to the cloud rather than having them on premise. And again, that number's just growing depending on industry, but we're seeing in the past 12 months a huge shift within sort of greater manufacturing vertical of moving to the cloud and moving to avail of managed services. It just touches on there, you know, the next industrial revolution is what really it's being seen as. For manufacturing businesses, being able to be flexible, enhancement, enable the business to completely revolutionize the way they work. And what we've seen is the ability to manage, monitor, and maintain their compute from any location, so not being wedded to the office, has been a key benefit for them. And when we look at how that allows them to adapt further, really the anywhere, anytime demand model. So you can be anywhere, anytime, increase the amount of servers, the specifications they have, the licenses for your end users, meaning that you can be flexible and adjust when needed. And 66% of manufacturing businesses are already implementing cloud services in some way, and it'll form a big part of their daily operations. Security and protection, I suppose the key point and one of the key reasons why a number of our clients and inspHire clients will deal with is tends to come down to security. Now, as Gartner says here, 99% of cloud security failures will be by a staff rather than the system. In 83% of businesses on a global scale store sensitive data in a cloud location. So it shows that probably 5 to 10 years ago, the concern around moving that physical box that sits in a corner and you can see it is actually the biggest risk to a business now from security perspective, tends to be the end user, and businesses trust a secure cloud environment to store their data. And to put that into sort of what the difference between what you have on premise and moving to a cloud solution such as Cloud Geeni is really in both physical security for the site that your data will be residing in. So Within our data centers, as I touched on earlier, they're ISO 27001 accredited, which is the accreditation that you would want to receive for any data center. They're all tier 3 level data centers, again, as secure as you go. And the main difference compared to what you have on premise is, for anyone to access those physical server infrastructure, there's iris scanners and swipe cards to get in. The racks are anonymous. There's 24-hour man guards, anti-climb fences, man security, CCTV, smoke detection, fire suppression. Anything that can affect the physical box has been considered and being secured. For example, I'm not an engineer, I'm in the sales team. I can't access those data centers. I'm not allowed in. I have to have a written letter and an agreed time, and then I'm introduced. So from a physical security perspective, they're infinitely more secure than you would ever have on premise. And the key point from a security user perspective and for the business is disaster recovery. So we deal a lot with firms, as I touched on, from large professional services organizations, large manufacturing firms, right down to 2-3 user businesses. And the key point that we would always make with any of them when it comes to security and the solutions that they run, the key is disaster recovery. So what do they do in the event of a disaster? With a server on premise, you'll probably have an online backup or even a physical tape of something from the server. Requires you to physically do it yourself, or you run it up into a cloud somewhere. In the case of that server failing, ultimately you have to recover all of the data if you can, and if it all comes back, great, but it'll still take you a few days to build a new server, have that up and running. And in 90% of cases that I've been aware of, very rarely will they recover all the data that they've lost. It takes a bit of unpicking, and I've seen in some cases businesses being down for 1 to 2 weeks or longer when they've had an issue on their server infrastructure, no access to their applications, and just continued downtime for the business. Within our world at Cloud Geenie, if you take our cloud infrastructure, it's standardized across the board. So all of our end users benefit from this disaster recovery plan. It's as standard. So you would have multiple redundant servers in data center 1, and all that means is we have a number of physical machines that run your virtual servers. If one of those physical machines was to fall over, you would automatically fail over to the next physical box, and as an end user you would never actually notice that as an experience. It would just run seamlessly, and we would keep it, I think we keep up there around 40% redundancy, so we can lose up to 40% of the hardware at data center 1 before any data center 2 needs to be considered. All of our servers are also replicated to a secondary data center. That's at a secondary location. Both of our data centers are in the northwest, so opposite sides of Manchester. And that secondary location then has the physical hardware that would sit at data center 1. So it's not just a backup of the raw data, the physical machines sit there also. All we need to do is diagnose the problem and decide that the quickest thing is to spin your server up at that secondary point. Now that sort of probably takes about 30 minutes to make the decision and leads to an RTO, so a return to operations of a maximum is 2 hours in the worst case scenario. So what that means in the worst case scenario, if your server becomes available, within 2 hours, it would be back and you wouldn't have lost any data. It would just be the maximum amount of downtime that you would have. All of our engineers are notified immediately from the monitoring software. So if anything happens on that infrastructure, our engineers are aware of it and working on it 24/7. And it allows us to guarantee an uptime of 99.9%. So for all of our users, that's our SLA, as the return to operation of 2 hours. That is a guarantee of service. And the disaster recovery is what ultimately sets it apart from anything you could try to implement yourself. To implement it yourself, you would need multiple servers, multiple network connections, and the cost would be prohibitive in most instances. And this is a design of what that infrastructure looks like at our data center at a high level. So you have dual firewalls protecting the infrastructure. You've got dual switches. You have all of our compute clusters all run an N+1 redundancy, which touching on there is if we can lose multiple boxes before anything needs to fail over. All of the storage that you use, so all of the server infrastructure is never over 3 years old. It's all Dell Compellent SANs, which is SSD, so it's as fast as storage as you can have. And there is pretty much unlimited capacity in terms of what sits within that infrastructure. We also then have your secondary site that you would fail over to in the instance of a disaster. Again, the failover platform is there. It's all SSD. There's no change in the technical specification. So once you had failed over to that point, you wouldn't notice any degrade in the service. So your applications now at work will all run as they did from DC1. And one of the things that we have and the benefit that we can offer to the clients is, depending on the size of the IT team or your desire to understand what's going on, we have a number of customers who will have a couple in their IT team who want to be able to see the performance of those servers and want the reports. They can have access to that. A lot of our clients have no interest in this. They just want to know that we see it and we monitor it, which we do as part of the managed service. So this reporting gives you an idea of sort of some of the analysis that we can run across the board on your infrastructure. We have multiple management tools monitoring all of your applications, all of the server infrastructure, and we can share this with you, or we can just manage it for you. It's completely up to yourself. And that sort of takes that simplified management is really where we try to base Cloud Geeni. When we deal with an inspHire client, it can be either just to deliver the inspHire application and not much else. So all they have is one part of the compute, the server runs the application, and that's all they need. They might have email requirement, and they might have some 365 licensing. We can manage and provide all of that. And some of the clients that we have with inspHire have actually taken a managed service across the board, so they've removed the need to have an IT support company by utilizing our engineers to deliver and manage their local network, also manage their IT infrastructure such as their desktops, their laptops, managing their printing, and we managing the licensing as well. So from a support perspective, depending on what you require for your IT infrastructure, we can manage and deliver it all, or we can do individual parts. It's completely up to the client and the requirement. In terms of the user management, so that can fall right down to first line support for your end users. They pick up the phone and they phone us at any point, and we resolve any problem within that IT setup. And that, for most of our customers, as I said, within inspHire, it's either just the application, which is all they need, and they maintain their other infrastructure elsewhere, and they have a support company that supports other parts of it, or they actually use us to do everything down to the internet connection, routers, Wi-Fi that sits on the site, and telephony solutions, and we just deliver and become that single point of contact for them. And in terms of, I suppose, a very high level summary of what we bring, or the advantages that we can offer to the inspHire clients, ultimately the first priority for us is to improve the application performance. So improve how inspHire runs, because it's running on the most performant infrastructure. We understand exactly what specification it requires from RAM, the disk space, the licensing, to ensure that it runs as performant as it possibly can. And alongside that, as we touched on at the start, the support between our engineers and inspHire engineers, the direct communication, makes a massive difference. It's brilliant for us because we believe any clients we have who have come to us from inspHire are in the best position out of everyone that we support, because ultimately the biggest frustration you can have as a cloud provider is an application that doesn't run very well or has updates and faults, and we don't have any line of communication to that software provider or any influence. And ultimately that goes the same for any software company. The biggest frustration for them would be their application sitting on an infrastructure that isn't performing or is causing issues, and them receiving that as a fault on their system. So for us, we believe that's a massive advantage for any client of inspHire, is that we understand the application, we ensure that it's delivered performantly, and that we have direct communications with all of the engineers. And as an additional benefit for any inspHire client really is the ability then to take what has been an on-premise solution and get the benefits of having a cloud platform. So it means that they can access that application, whether they're on holiday, whether they're at home because of lockdown, whatever reason that may be, they can see inspHire and work in that application, and all staff can, as and when it's required. And from a user experience, that working remotely is as performant, if not more so, than it would normally have been in an office. And really, for us, we can simplify the whole IT setup. So what we found with a number of inspHire clients, depending on the size of the firm, in a lot of cases, they haven't had an IT team, and they maybe use 1 or 2 third parties for various elements, and would ideally like to just have one solution in place and one partner to deal with. So it makes it a lot easier for them moving forward. And the big change, I suppose, from running an on-premise solution to moving to a cloud managed service, it's really moving what has been a capital expenditure to an operational one, paying for the resources you use, the licenses you use, and the number of users who use it. So it removes any wastage. It also removes the problem of either underscoping or overscoping a project, which either will cost you money or lead to an unperforming system, depending on what way you do it. So from that side, you will always have the latest operating systems. You'll always be available to have the latest inspHire systems. You'll always have the latest Microsoft 365 licensing available to you, and you'll always be fully supported from start to finish and across the board. And as I said, what I'll do now is I'll hand back over to Daniel just to finish off the slides and presentations. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in, and we'll happily get them answered for you.
Thanks, Connor. I think that you make some fantastic points there, and I certainly think that the working relationship between inspHire and Cloud Geeni is extremely useful for customers. Certainly when it comes to not only an implementation perspective and that initial move over onto the cloud environment, but from an ongoing perspective, dealing with our support teams, dealing with the project management teams, with us having a full understanding of what your cloud environment looks like, who's providing that, and we have direct lines of communication with those team members. It makes it a lot easier for us to be able to diagnose and resolve issues based on that relationship. So some fantastic points there. So Connor, first of all, thank you for joining today. I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks very much.
Also, no problem, no problem. And for the attendees today also as well, thank you very much for joining the webinar. Again, I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. Now, following the webinar today, there's a short survey off the back of this webinar, which comprises of just 2 questions. So I'd really appreciate it if you could just answer those questions honestly for me. And then off the back of the webinar today, if you've got any questions about anything that you've seen or heard today, please come through to the relevant inspHire account manager, and they'll be more than happy to speak to you. And it's more than likely that we'll be doing some follow-up with you individually off the back of the webinar today as well. So for myself, thank you very much for attending. Connor, once again, thank you, and for everyone joining, thank you, look after yourselves, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.